fight. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fixed Fights podcast with Kurt and Ben. As always, I'm Kurt. I'm here with my main man, Ben. What's going on this week, dude?
Not a lot, man. Looking forward to a pretty big UFC card this weekend.
Yeah, we got a big one coming up. But first, let's break down everything that happened this past weekend because there was a lot of fights. Let's start off on Thursday night. We had Bellator's. We kind of talked about like their kickoff show, right? They had a couple shows, but this one felt like the big one happening on CBS Sports. And I don't think a lot of stuff happened Thursday night, right? Co-main event canceled. Patricky Pitbull and is it Justin Willis, right?
Yes. Jaleel Willis.
Jaleel Willis. I was close with the J. That fight was pulled probably like an hour or two prior to the fight. I guess Pitbull was not cleared. He had like what was the actual diagnosis? It was like
labyrinthitis, something like that. Does that sound right?
Labyrinthitis, yeah, something like
could be making that up.
No, I think that's it. So they lost that. They went on with, I believe, like a 4-fight main card. They ended up showing like a early prelim in the middle with filler time. I don't think it was the smoothest launch, but a couple good fights on the card, especially on the main card. We got to talk about the main event. Obviously, Cris Cyborg gets it done. Pretty much mows through Arlene Blencowe. Blencowe looked like she was in great shape. She looked ready for the challenge, but she was just no match for Cyborg. Cyborg just went through her. Ground game looked excellent. It's crazy to think in Cyborg's 25 pro fights now that this is her first submission. She's always had a good ground game, but man, I mean, she looks great.
Yeah. I mean, this was like the most obvious kind of simple response. Like, I was kind of invested in this fight, and we talked about it. Blencowe has hands, she has power, she can throw, but Cyborg's like all around mixed martial arts game is just totally different. She actually has a ground game. Not that Blencowe, I'm sure, did not work on her ground game, and she has not been I'm sure she's been trying to shore that up, but Cyborg has much more than just hands. You saw that with a good kicking game here, takedowns, all that good stuff. And man, there is nothing like Cyborg when she's like unloading against an opponent that's against the fence. Like, what was it? I mean, right before the finish came, I feel like she had one of those like trademark flurries that there's a reason she's such a big star in the sport. And yeah, she has like the look, the muscles, the tattoos, all that stuff. But even just her fighting style, like there's not really much else like it in terms of how ferocious she is.
Yeah, she's a monster, man. She looks so good, and it's definitely kind of a shame we're not going to get that Amanda Nunes rematch. I feel like that's the one for both of them, right? I personally think that fight could go a different way if they fought 10 times. Nunes is mowing through people in the UFC. Cyborg's kind of mowing through people in Bellator. I don't really see her losing the title, but yeah, she looked good, man. Now it begs the question, like, what's next? You could possibly go Julia Budd rematch. You also have Kat Zingano in Bellator now. Any preference for which way they go, or it's kind of just like line them up and she's going to take them down?
I think Kat Zingano is the fight that makes the most sense just because it's fresh. Julia Budd does have a kind of underwhelming win in between. She's at least won since losing to Cyborg, but I think that Julia Budd fight is still pretty fresh in our minds. And as excited as we were for the Cyborg Budd fight, and it was really exciting while it was happening. If you go back and watch that fight, man, Cyborg was basically winning every second of that fight. Yeah. So I'm not saying Julia Budd's not a champion. She doesn't have it in her. I'm not saying she doesn't have it in her to like, maybe beat Cyborg, and she clearly has like the physical gifts to do it. But I'd like to see a fresh face, and I think what Bellator is going to do is Kat Zingano, who I think has one win in Bellator now at 145, but
she does, yeah.
That seems like the most obvious option.
Yeah, she got a marketable name too, right? I
Right.
think that's the way they go. Moving down on the card quickly, co-main event, Leandro Ego runs right through Ricky Bandejas. I was pretty surprised at this. This is one of the fights I had circled on paper, honestly, for the whole weekend, that I thought was one of the better fights, and wasn't even close, man. And Ego was kind of an afterthought, but man, if you look at that 135-pound division in Bellator, dude, it's on fire as well. We kind of talked about it a couple weeks ago, but 135 as a whole in MMA, Bellator, UFC, that weight class is on fire.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And I thought this was kind of the best we've seen Ego, at least in Bellator. Like you look back through, he had a pretty rough start to his Bellator run, losing to Eduardo Dantas, former champion, Darion Caldwell, former champion, and then Aaron Pico getting knocked out by Aaron Pico. There's no shame in that. He's also, giving up size to Aaron Pico. So pretty impressive. Like I was kind of let down by Ricky Bandejas's performance here. I thought his takedown defense would hold up better, or his get up game would be a little bit better. But yeah, Ego is a monster when he gets a hold of you. Like the slams, the top game, everything. He was just totally in control from the jump here with his grappling.
Yeah, I was surprised a little bit too that Bandejas looked honestly kind of lost on the ground.
Yeah.
He had nothing for him, but yeah, Ego's a stud, man, and he just adds another name to that division. And Bandejas himself, I think, is I don't think he's going to fall far too down the ladder. And there's a lot of interesting fights for him. So I think both these guys are definitely still big players here. Yeah, speaking of Patricky Pitbull and Jaleel Willis getting called off, you open up this card as well with classic Bellator nutshot, man.
Dude, what is it
Mandel
with them?
Nalo blasting Syed Awad right in the balls, and again with that no crowd, dude, it amplifies everything, man. So that was definitely not the start they wanted.
And you could like hear Syed Awad like crying. Like I was
Yeah,
like,
it's not good.
no, thank you. I think they went to a commercial break even during this, which I appreciate. And man, Syed Awad, always a fun fighter, but he has had so
He's had a
he
rough go.
lost 4 in a row. I mean, losing to guys like Benson Henderson, and Goiti Yamauchi, not a ton of shame in that, but 4 in a row and then now a no contest, like man, I feel for the guy. But yeah, what's up with Bellator and all the constant? It feels like this year, or at least during the pandemic, every card has like insane nut shots on every Bellator card, and man, it's fucking crazy. And this is another one. I don't think Mandel Nalo was trying to foul him, but I
No,
feel
he
like there should
wasn't.
be a punishment. Like you've got to punish a guy for having a wayward knee like that. Like they were just against the fence. I don't know, man. I'm not saying that it should be a DQ. Well, maybe it should be a DQ, but
Maybe, I
I,
don't
I
know.
just wish there could be something done about these knees that could be avoided. I'm not saying he meant to foul him. I'm not saying he meant to hit him in the balls, but I think he maybe should have been more careful with where the knee was
Yeah,
going.
listen, they need to hit up Brian Ortega and get on his cup game. Did
That-
you see the size of Brian Ortega's cup?
how could you not? Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
I think if they all had that extra large cup like Brian Ortega, they might be safe. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, I don't know. I'm not saying that Nalo.
I don't think he
It's
tried to do
it's
it. Yeah.
it's kind of like the fingers in the eye thing. It's like it's hard to stop, but you can kind of guard against it. I don't know, man.
I mean,
It's crazy.
I wish there was more like if the two fighters are not actively like moving, then just call that a foul no matter what.
Right.
And then just put the onus on the guy throwing the strike to not do it. It's different, that like what was Raymond Daniels spin kicking some guy
Yeah,
weeks ago. That was different because they were both like moving.
yeah,
Like
there's separation.
whereas here it's like take your time, don't knee people in the crotch. That's all I ask.
I agree. Um, did you see the first fight of the night between Albert Gonzalez and Castro Jema?
I just saw clips because it looked
Dude,
fucking crazy,
it
right?
was insane. So let me break it down for you if you haven't seen it. It was literally the first fight of the night. Castro Jema against Albert Gonzalez. Basically, the first round, Jema absolutely destroys him, beats him up on the feet. Second round, more of the same. And I want to say within like the last like minute, Jema hits him with a really nice armbar. Gonzalez not tapping, and his arm literally dislocates, pops, does whatever, maybe like 2 or 3 times, and he just will not tap. The ref doesn't stop it. Not tapping, not tapping. The bell rings. And in between rounds, Jema, who's up 20-18 with a possible 10-8 round, quits on the stool. He's exhausted. I looked on Instagram. He was kind of saying like he did this to save the fighter because the ref wouldn't stop it. I mean,
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that. I mean, I guess I see the stance that he's trying to make. I mean, he looked gassed, but listen, man, it's a fight. You're doing this professionally. And I'm not saying like I want to see anybody get hurt. Like, I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I don't want to see anybody like die in there, right? But like, man, if you're there to fight and the ref doesn't stop the fight, I mean, do you want to take a loss if that's the route you're going? I don't know, man. He looked gassed.
Well,
it was crazy. It was insane.
Well, like if he had broken Albert Gonzalez's arm with a kick, he wouldn't stop. Like they would still keep going, right? Like he wouldn't. Nobody would be like, "Oh, he's got to save him from himself." They'd be like, "Keep kicking that freaking arm," right? Like it. I don't know, man. I did see the armbar though. Jesus, that looked bad.
It looked bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, props to Gonzalez. That guy's a stud. It looks like it shows the two like crazy sides of the spectrum in MMA, right? Like you have this guy that just has the most heart ever. He has no quit in him. And I'm not saying like Gemma doesn't have heart, right? Because that's like, but it's like there's some sort of like lapse in mentality there, right? You got one guy that like will not tap, will do anything to win, and the other guy is tired, and he kind of quits on the stool again. I'm not bashing Jema, right? But I don't know, something happened where he did not want to come out for the third round. But it was crazy, dude. I've really never seen anything like that. It was wild.
Yeah, it was super interesting, and I think you bring up a good point about the clash in mentality. I mean, that stuff for me as a fan is like pretty interesting. I know it's like disappointing to see somebody quit on the stool, but it's also interesting to see somebody get like mentally defeated from kicking so much ass, basically, if that makes any sense. Like,
Dude,
like he was like, this guy's not gonna fucking quit. Like I'm like the quit entered his mind because his opponent just refused to.
Yeah, dude, I have no idea, but crazy, man.
Yeah.
I have not seen many things like that, but
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll see it again.
Yeah.
But I mean, so Bellator definitely had some fun stuff going on this weekend, and they do have a big event next weekend, which we are both looking forward to. You have anything else on Bellator before we jump over to UFC?
That was it, man. Actually, no. Steve Mowry, is he like good? Good? I can't tell with that. He is.
No.
He's now 8-0, and he looked really good here. But Bellator has such kind of hit and miss matchmaking that I can't always tell how good somebody is. But he looks to be like a pretty decent heavyweight, or at least has like good kickboxing skills.
He just looks so small.
What's
Like
his?
he does not look like a big heavyweight.
He's listed at 6'8", 250.
Really?
So he is big, but he's not. I mean, he looks kind of
Maybe it's because he's like very
like
tall and
lanky.
lanky that he doesn't look beefy. But I was just thinking like imagine this dude like next to like a Francis Ngannou or something.
Right.
Oh, this guy looks tiny.
I mean, he's only 28 years old, 8-0, and if Tapology is to be believed, he's also undefeated as an amateur. So
yeah, they were mentioning that in the broadcast. I think he was like 7-0 as an AMI, 7-0 as a pro going into this. So yeah, a lot of experience. Definitely think he's a prospect.
Yeah, someone to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to UFC. Dude, I gotta come out and say it firsthand, man. I did not give Brian Ortega, I don't think, the credit that he deserved going into this. I kind of, I don't want to say I overlooked him, but again, I kind of said it last week, like looking at that Max Holloway fight in my eyes, with the layoff, everything going on, and then Brian Ortega cuts his hair, right? And obviously he donates it, but like, I don't know the backstory, but it just seemed like he cuts it right before weigh-ins. Like it was a little patchy, so it didn't look like he did it like planned, So I'm thinking like, man, this is a bad weight cut. 2 years off. Korean Zombies looked excellent. I'm like, dude, he's got this in the bag. And boy, was I wrong. Ortega looked so freaking good. Ortega looked like a striker first, right? Like his striking looked so good. He was patient. The jab was popping. Counters were on point. Korean Zombie could just never get anything going. Dude, I'm impressed, man. And I slept on Ortega a little bit too much here. Super impressive.
Same here, man. I completely slept on Ortega. And I think we had seen, like, especially against a guy like Frankie Edgar, and some other fights, we had seen that Ortega could be really, really good offensively as a striker. Like, packs big power and is not afraid to throw. But I think kind of the missing piece we saw here, and I think what Zombie had trouble with, was Ortega just not always being there to be hit. I think Zombie, I mean, this was not a great performance from Zombie, but I also think the bottom line is he thought it would be much easier to hit Brian Ortega. And Ortega looked so much improved defensively, just like moving his feet in and out of range. Simple shit like that, I think worked well. And then offensively, he was mixing it up so much. I feel like he threw his right hand either straight, overhand, or uppercut, and that was just giving Zombie all kinds of problems. He landed that rear, right uppercut a bunch, and then sometimes he would change it to an overhand. I just think little simple stuff like that, while being defensively aware and safe, really paid dividends. And yeah, he looked really, really good. We already know he's big. We already know he's durable. We know he can take a punch. But if he adds that kind of defensive element to his striking game, and obviously his jiu-jitsu is still there, because Zombie wanted nothing to do with it, right? No. I think there's a lot of other guys in the division where in that fight you would have seen Korean Zombie try to get a takedown, or at least go to the clinch and try to work him there, but he wanted none of that. And rightfully so. Ortega will wrap up your neck in a heartbeat. So I was super impressed with Ortega. I hate the haircut, by the way. And I'm also with you that, like, in this post-fight interview, he said that he didn't even know where he was going to donate it yet, which makes me think even more, man, that like I don't even know how much hair, that much hair would weigh. It's got to be a pound or two.
It's got to be at least a pound. I mean, he had some pretty luscious locks.
It was like down to his waist. He's got to be. And he weighed in just at 146. So maybe it was because of the weight cut. Especially, it just seems like him being like, I don't know where I'm going to donate it. It's like, okay, you didn't really have a plan going into this, did you? But his haircut doesn't fit. He's all like silky smooth and like styling on the feet. And now he's got this Neanderthal, like crappy haircut. Come on. You got to get it together.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, dude wasn't even breathing heavy at the end of it, which was crazy. Dude, he looked so good, man. He really did.
Well, they made and he kind of made a deal about him changing camps and like kind of cleaning house, and I think that really paid dividends. His new coaches and camps seem to have taken, like, they haven't stripped Brian Ortega of what makes him good, right?
They refined it.
Exactly. They refined it. And I feel like he was actually fighting with like a process here. Whereas before he was just kind of seeing what comes. And there was some of that here, like the elbow that he landed, that changed the entire complexion of the fight.
Changed the whole fight. Because I think Korean Zombie was winning that round. The first round was close.
Yep.
He landed that elbow. He hurt him bad. And then it was really never the same. He kind of whitewashed him the rest of the whole fight.
Yeah. And Zombie, I think, said that he doesn't remember rounds 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
And that was also, man, the drama of Zombie getting hurt in a really close fight up to that point, getting hurt by the same exact strike that Yair Rodriguez.
I know, dude. I
was like,
man was having flashbacks.
I mean, it was dramatic to begin with, right? A guy gets knocked down by a spinning elbow in the middle of a fight. That's always dramatic. But you add on the fact that he has to be thinking, holy shit, this again? Like this again? But yeah. All props to Ortega here, man. I think I saw some people, this is a bad fight from Zombie, yada, yada, yada. And maybe it was not his best performance, but I really think so much of that is credit to Brian Ortega.
Yeah, I think most of it is credit to Brian Ortega. What he was doing on the feet was throwing Zombie off. Zombie was never Zombie, right? He was not able to walk through the punches and walk through the fire. Something Ortega was doing was throwing him off. And dude, that's credit to Ortega, man. Bad fight from Zombie, maybe, but yeah, don't take anything away from Ortega. He was super impressive here.
I really think Zombie spent that first round kind of downloading information, and then I think you're right. I think the second round before the elbow, Zombie was starting to kind of pick his spots. And then he got tagged with that elbow. And then, like I said at the very beginning, I think Ortega was much harder to hit than he expected. I think Ortega had improved, and that all kind of went together to create a really dominant performance from Brian Ortega.
And Ortega never let himself like get into that phone booth brawl, right? Like we've seen him in before. He reset, he picked his shots, stuck with the jab. Yeah, man, super impressive. And he brings up the point now. Is Volkanovski versus Ortega next?
It's got to be. It's got to be. I don't see who else they could do at 145, really.
I mean, the only other fight is Yair and Zabit, but at this point, it's like, when they're scheduled for, is it November that they're scheduled for?
That sounds right. I can look it up, but I feel like they've been on and off so much, especially Yair Rodriguez.
It's like the third or fourth time.
Both those guys are on and off so much that it would seem like so risky for the UFC to book one of them in a title shot very far in advance.
I mean, this version of Ortega, I think he gives Volkanovski some problems, man. He looked really good. He's long, he's lanky, and we saw, Max Holloway give Volkanovski plenty of trouble, especially in that second fight with his length and his outside boxing. Yeah, dude, this version of Ortega, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hinted at it there. I was going to ask if you have kind of an early prediction on Volkanovski Ortega, but he's got to give. I mean, this is a guy too that with his jiu-jitsu, Volkanovski can't really lean on his ground game against Ortega. He wouldn't even really. I think most guys don't even feel particularly safe like clinching with Ortega because he's so aggressive on the neck. So yeah, I mean, I would imagine betting wise, Ortega would be an underdog to Volkanovski, but he's a super live dog, especially after.
Yeah, he is, man. Very impressive. Korean Zombie, man, I'd like to see him fight like maybe like an Edson Barboza next. I think that would be a ton of fun, or like Josh Emmett when he's coming back. Featherweight's booming too, man. I'm waiting for them to sign the Stam Calvin Kattar Max Holloway fight. A lot of big names here at the top.
Yeah, I was thinking Josh Emmett as well, especially because I assume Zombie maybe wants to take a little rest after this, which would be well earned, and I think Emmett's not quite ready, but all kinds of options at 145. I hope I'm still with you with Holloway Kattar. I saw some people saying that maybe like Zombie against Kattar would work or Zombie against Holloway, but no, I think those two should fight each other, Holloway and Kattar.
Kattar deserves, and not saying Zombie's not a big fight. Yeah, I mean, Zombie or Holloway's a big fight, but yeah, Kattar deserves that big matchup.
Well, Holloway would give him probably a number one contender fight spot. So
absolutely,
and Zombie wouldn't, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Jessica Andrade moves up to women's flyweight and mows through Caitlin Chukagian. Very impressive. I think we both picked Jessica Andrade. I was pretty certain she was going to win. She just has that style that matches up well with Chukagian, but she hits her with like dude, I watched that body shot like a million times, and it just must have hit her in the most perfect spot because it didn't look like a hard punch, but Andrade is super small, compact. She must generate a lot of power, but dude, I'm excited for her at 125. I mean, 125 is not a deep division. There's not a lot of challengers. My question is, did they go right for Andrade versus Shevchenko? Assuming Shevchenko moves through Jennifer Maia, or do you think they give Andrade one more fight prior to Shevchenko?
They might give her one more fight, but like honestly, why? She just beat the number one contender. Assuming Shevchenko beats Maia. If Jennifer Maia somehow beats Valentina Shevchenko, then I think they probably give Shevchenko an immediate rematch. But honestly, man, I mean, Cynthia Calvillo was scheduled to fight Lauren Murphy this weekend. Calvillo pulled out. There are some other fights, I guess, at the top of flyweight that might be around there for Andrade, but like, why wait? She just beat the number one. She just finished the number one contender. Like, I mean, even before she moved up to flyweight, this is kind of a fight that I thought, like, just this is a fight that makes sense. Yeah. This is one of the few women that can probably physically compete with Valentina Shevchenko. I'd like to see it. That's in my mind, no disrespect to Jennifer Maia, who I actually do enjoy watching as a fighter. I think Andrade is really the only real challenger for Shevchenko right now.
I think she puts up a pretty interesting matchup against Shevchenko too. Just the way that she can fearlessly move in. She's got a lot of power. And she's very good at getting on the inside against opponents, right? She's not going to be taller than many opponents, right? But we've seen her fight some lanky fighters. Rose Namajunas, Chukagian here had about 30 inches on her. So, yeah, dude, I'm excited for it. We shall see, though.
Yeah, I hope they go right away with Andrade Shevchenko after Shevchenko beats Maya. Again,
Yeah.
we can't look past Jennifer Maya. That woman does have skills, and
She does.
I think Jennifer Maya has a better chance than than like Jessica I did, or even Caitlin Chukagian, just because she can box and she has power. But yeah, Shevchenko is a different animal.
She is. All right, moving down on the card quickly. Jimmy Crute looks like an absolute stud. Most through Modestas Bakauskas.
There we go.
Dude, he looks like a stud, man. Young, big. He called out Nikita Krylov after. Yeah, man. Say it all the time, dude. He's calling for a fight that makes sense. Book it. Krylov is a solid fighter. That's a fun one.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to see Crute continue to rise up the ladder. He's 24 years old, which is an infant by light heavyweight standards. And we're talking about it again, man. Light heavyweight. We're cycling through. We're finally getting some fresh blood in that division.
Yeah, we are, man. James Krause gets a big win over Claudio Silva. Jonathan Martinez beats Thomas Almeida. I did not see that one coming. Not the way it happened. I mean, he mowed through Thomas Almeida, man. Thomas Almeida, a couple of years ago, before going into that Cody Garbrandt fight, we thought he was like the next dude, like he was that dude, and then just not been the same for some reason.
I mean, yeah, he seems to have totally fallen off a cliff. I think like physically, he just maybe is broken down. Maybe had a bunch of was an action fighter, so I'm sure he had some miles on him. But also, man, like Jonathan Martinez, he has a couple losses in the UFC, but I kind of think he's the real deal. I wouldn't mind seeing him like a big step up in competition. I didn't realize he lost to Andre Sukumtat, no disrespect in that, and a split decision loss to Andre Ewell. So I think he's the real deal, or at least the realish deal, I should say. I could see him as like a perennial top 10 type of guy.
Yeah, I agree. He looks good, man. Anyone on the undercard you want to give a shout out to?
Let me look down. Let's see what else. I mean, Said Nurmagomedov reminding us how like there's a reason he was a super hyped prospect coming into the UFC. His kicking game is fucking incredible. His striking game overall is fire. Like he's definitely one to continue to watch at 135.
Yeah, he looked good, and then John looked really good too. Beat up John Phillips. Maxim Grishin is solid. Yeah, there were some fun fights. Jillian Robertson gets a big win. Solid card overall, man.
Yeah, I was happy. I mean, especially the main event. So impressed with Ortega and like an exciting fight. Like that spinning elbow in the second round was like edge of your seat type of stuff. That was a really fun fight.
Yeah, it really was. Last one before we jump into this weekend's event. Boxing, we talked about it last week. Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez put on a great fight. The only gripe I have with it, man, is Lomachenko's always been a guy where he kind of takes a couple rounds to, get a read on the guy he's fighting, and then he pours it on. But in this fight, man, against a young, hungry guy like Teofimo Lopez, and kind of like we talked about with Ortega, man, I was so impressed with the way Lopez was able to stick to a game plan, never get outside of himself, and just, of course, man, it was working early. Lomachenko was never really giving him much back, and he was just staying with, nice straights to the body, hooks up top. He wasn't overextending, and he just built such a lead to where I believe in the 7th round when Lomachenko started to really pour it on. And you saw once Lomachenko started to actually fight and get going, it was very competitive. He was even getting the better of Lopez, but I think just he waited too long. And in that 12th round, Lopez was able to really dig deep. I had it 7 rounds to 5. Maybe even 8-4. I don't even remember. I believe I had Lopez like either the first 6 or 7 rounds, and then I thought he won pretty big in the 12th. he actually landed the most punches on Lomachenko, I think, in a long time that has been landed on him in the 12th. But yeah, dude, I was so impressed with Teofimo Lopez. I mean, that is a huge win for him.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think like Lopez and his camp obviously understood, all right, we're going to bank these early rounds because that's how Lomachenko fights. Like he's going to be, don't overexpose yourself. Not saying Lomachenko can't like counter and like shut the lights out early. Don't expose yourself. Take those early rounds that Lomachenko is going to give you. And then when Lomachenko did turn it on, like his 8th round, I think was the best. And it felt like in the 8th round, I thought, oh shit, maybe Lomachenko is going to finish him here, because he did really turn it on. But I think the credit goes to Lopez there for staying in the fight and throwing back enough to really get Lomachenko a little bit off the gas in those late, like middle late rounds. I was like so fucking impressed with Lopez, and I feel like most of the boxing community thought that Lomachenko was just gonna kind of roll through him. And yeah, man, that 12th round was so dramatic. It was kind of a lot of big boxing fights are that slow burn until the end, but that 12th round, knowing that Lomachenko either needed to win that round to maybe squeak out a draw or get the finish, and Lopez throwing back and even winning the 12th round, super dramatic. Man, is Teofimo Lopez like the guy now? I mean, there's bigger stars in boxing overall, the Anthony Joshuas and Canelos of the world, but I think if we're talking about American boxers, Lopez is it, right? He's like the guy.
Pretty much the guy, man. I mean, Vasily Lomachenko was the number 1 ranked pound for pound fighter coming into that fight, and Lopez went toe to toe with him and beat him. Over 12 rounds. It wasn't a fluke knockout. I'd imagine they're going to probably try to run that back. Although I heard that there wasn't an immediate rematch clause in the contract. But I'd imagine they'd run that one back, and it's an interesting fight, man.
I think there was a rumor of. I mean, yeah, I would watch that fight again a second time, especially because Lomachenko would like. Now that he's fought this guy for 12 rounds, Lomachenko wouldn't like let as many early rounds go by.
I just wonder, like, let's say Lomachenko gets going in the 4th round.
It's
like,
different.
I wonder how much
story.
different the fight is. You know what I'm saying? Because he started to land big. I thought he won like 8, 9, 10, 11, going into that 12th round. I just wonder if we would have had a different result, either way, maybe he overextends too much and gets clipped by Lopez, because Lopez is a very, very hard puncher. So I'd be interested to see the fight, but yeah, I think Lopez is the guy right now. And he's so young too. I think he's only 22 or 23. He's 16-0 now with a win over Vasily Lomachenko. I mean, the sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah.
And he's got a fun personality too.
Super fun. And that kind
confident.
I thought Top Rank actually did a pretty good job of creating and selling the narrative for guys like us that don't watch boxing every week. It was helpful to be like, this is why this fight is important. It's unifying these 4 titles. It's both these guys are trained by their dad. They're, like they did a really good job of kind of giving me the story and telling me why I should care about this fight. I saw a rumor that Top Rank is considering for Lopez's next fight, the winner of Ryan Garcia against Luke Campbell. And I would imagine Lopez would trounce either one of those guys, especially Ryan Garcia, who I think of as just like a Instagram star. But
the thing with that is we're gonna see, because Luke Campbell is a legit. Very, very good fighter. I tend to think that Ryan Garcia is a little bit more than just an Instagram star, but yeah, we're gonna see. This is a big step up for him. Yeah, dude, I think sky's the limit for Teofimo Lopez at this point.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him fight more, man. I'm excited to get back into boxing again. Like, this kind of renewed me as a fan a little bit. Like, oh shit, this is why
it felt big.
This is why boxing, it felt so big, and they did a good job of, even though it wasn't pay-per-view, of making it feel like a really big fight, even with no crowd. I felt like they just did a good job of communicating the magnitude of the fight.
But here's the thing with boxing, and this is why I give these two guys so much props, because fights like this don't always happen, and they don't always happen at the right time. Like, this is the right time. Lopez is this budding star, up and coming, taking on Vasyl Lomachenko, who's in his prime. A lot of times you don't get these. You get Vasyl Lomachenko when he's 38 years old, over the hill. That's the problem with boxing. It's like, it takes so much going through hoops to get these big fights, the fights that you should see. Whereas, MMA, it's like these guys are in the UFC. He's number one, he's number two. They're going to fight. Whereas boxing, it's like, he's got to fight me, you, and then this next guy before he gets to, Vasyl Lomachenko, where it's like, dude, let's not beat around the bush. Let's get the best guy versus the best guy. So, and I think that's where the boxing model suffers now,
For
especially
sure.
in this day and age. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. And I think that's a big credit to Lomachenko, because usually a lot of times we're seeing champions like him really picking and choosing their fights. And like the Lopez Lomachenko fight, like as somebody like myself, not a huge boxing fan, like this is a fight that's been on my radar for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
So they actually did a good job of, like, the Lopez camp, at least, calling their shot, saying, we want to fight Lomachenko. In the meantime, building up an awesome fucking highlight reel for Teofimo Lopez, getting me more excited. And then, the fight actually happened. So all around, like, good stuff. And, dude, I don't know about you, I tuned in to the boxing broadcast as soon as the UFC fights were over, and I just saw 3 fights, and it was 3 fucking banger. Was it Berlanga had the, like, crazy knockout, and then the second to last fight on the boxing card was
it was fire.
Absolute banger. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This is how they get me back into boxing, just putting together good fights.
Yeah, I agree, man. Really successful all the way around. And dude, I can't say enough about Teofimo Lopez. So impressive.
For sure.
All right. It's time. UFC 254 finally happening this weekend. Dude, this is a big fight, man. It is a big fight. We are getting Khabib versus Justin Gaethje. Almost like Justin Gaethje 2.0, right? Like we kind of had this like this Ortega like revelation when Justin Gaethje fought Tony Ferguson, right? He fought such a measured fight. You didn't see too much of that Gaethje, whereas like, remember back in the day in like WSOF where like Gaethje was just better than the guys he was fighting, but like you could just pull him into those dogfights where he was getting like, I don't know, like dropped by like Luis Palomino and, I don't even know some of the other guys he's fighting, but he's getting some fire fights with these guys. And Michael Johnson had him on the stanky leg all the way up. He loses to Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier in class, Gaethje fashion. And then he fights Tony Ferguson and just looks so measured, so different. And, now he's fighting Khabib, who, you don't have to go into Khabib. We know what Khabib is. He's one of the most dominating champions of all time. And dude, I could not be more excited for this fight. I think this right here is probably the biggest challenge Khabib has faced. And I think, honestly, possibly the biggest challenge Khabib will face, because we don't know how many more fights he's going to have left.
Yeah, I think if you look at Khabib's title defenses, this feels like, at least stylistically, the hardest fight.
Yeah.
I mean, Conor has big power, but like the book has kind of been written on McGregor. If you can press him, if you can grapple with him, he's going to fade, right? We saw that. Poirier, as good as he is and as much as improved as Poirier is, he can be taken down. We saw, like, we knew, not that Poirier and McGregor, and even like the guys that Khabib fought on the way to the title, the Edson Barbosas, the Michael Johnsons, all those guys are really good fighters. But they all had been beaten by a similar style of Khabib, or like, there was a very clear path to victory for Khabib against those guys. Whereas, I think stylistically, Gaethje feels like the hardest fight for him so far. But that said, we also haven't really seen anybody consistently try to put Gaethje on his back yet, at least in the UFC.
I think it's hard to, I think the style that Gaethje fights and the way that he's very dangerous from the clinch. Mm-hmm. He's got great uppercuts. He's got great clinch work. He's got those savage leg kicks, and he's got a very good, I think, an underrated jab. Mm-hmm. And he also follows his jab up really nicely with that 1-2. So I think it's kind of hard to get a read for takedowns on Gaethje. But again, he's never fought like a wrestler like Khabib.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. My only thing is, with the Gaethje 2.0, and I do think he's like turned a corner mentally, like fight IQ wise, to realize, oh, I got to pull back a little bit. He is still a guy that's going to be in front of you with his feet planted, and he's picking his shots really nicely, but he's still like, his hips are there to be attacked. And I think Khabib has the fastest shot in the lightweight division. Like he'll shoot a fucking low single. He did that to McGregor. He'll shoot from far out because he's so fast. And I do think I think Khabib will be able to get to Gaethje's hips just because, yeah, Gaethje is like really kind of slowed down his process, but he is still like fighting his shots and just letting them go, which leaves his hips there, his feet pretty well planted. I do think Khabib will be able to get to his hips. Whether he gets him down consistently is kind of what we will see.
You bring up a good point, and I think there's like a kind of a false narrative going into this fight where a lot of people are thinking Khabib like needs defense to score his takedowns, but he doesn't. Khabib is a very good outside shooter. I don't think he needs a takedown defense to get his takedowns. I think that's one of the narratives that people are kind of getting wrong going into this fight. Man, there's just so much to like talk about and think about with this fight. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so like I've spent like the past couple weeks trying to figure out this fight. I do think like part of me thinks like you see Khabib fight and he's still, as much as he's improved on the feet in terms of his striking, still when guys get after him with punches, he looks terrible. Like he seems flustered. He runs straight back or runs away.
Doesn't have good defense either.
He does not have good defense on the feet. And you saw like McGregor got to him a little bit. Poirier in the like one attack that Poirier had on Khabib, he found like Khabib looked all sorts of lost. So I think it would be easy to say, you know what, Gaethje is a really, really good kickboxer. I think we all agree on that. And of course he's going to be offensive, and that's like a path to victory is just putting it on him, on Khabib, and Khabib's defense on the feet kind of falls apart. The flip side though, and I think this is basically the reason why I'm picking Khabib, and I think it's a really simple answer. Khabib is, I think, the best fighter in the world that once he gets a clinch, a single leg, any sort of grip on you, he is the best in the world at then eventually you're going to be underneath him. Like there is nobody else in the world that chain wrestles like him, that can consistently, just all he needs is a grip on you, and eventually he's going to chain wrestle you to the mat. So my simple, like, without trying to overthink it, the question is, can Khabib take Gaethje down? And I really think he can. I think Gaethje's hips are going to be there, and it's as simple as that. Maybe Gaethje will try to kind of recreate what McGregor almost did, which is like weather an early storm and then find success on the feet in the middle rounds. But I think it's as simple as if Khabib can take you down, you're going to lose. And I think Khabib takes him down here. Gaethje is as good as he is, as tough as he is, he's still human. I think Khabib will get on top of him, and it's just a snowball effect. I think he gradually drowns him.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head with his chain wrestling, right? I think he's the best chain wrestler in the game. And and that's why Ben Askren was so good. Hate on Ben Askren all you want, but Ben Askren is one of the best MMA wrestlers in the game. And if you watch Ben Askren's fight, if you watch Khabib's fights, it's not usually the first takedown attempt, right? It's once they connect to your hips, like you were talking about, that the second and third attempt are what get the guys down. Yeah, you bring up a good point. I'm going to give you my pick. And please interject whenever you want. You know that I like to go big on my picks. I'm not afraid to be wrong, right? I've made a ton of terrible, terrible picks. I picked Felicia Spencer to beat Amanda Nunes, which was one of my worst. And I'm going big here. I'm going Justin Gaethje. And I'm not only going Justin Gaethje, I'm going Justin Gaethje by first round stoppage. And let me explain this, right? There's caveats. I concede to you that if Khabib does get the ball rolling, yeah, it's going to be a snowball effect, right? That's usually what happens. We've seen him in a little bit of trouble on his feet, but once he gets the ball rolling, once he gets his takedowns, it's usually game over, right? I concede that this could possibly be the same in this fight. Gaethje has great hips. He's a very good wrestler. You don't get to see it often, but the way I see this going, I think either Khabib is going to hang out in the clinch a little bit too long, or he's going to take an errant shot. And dude, I just feel that right uppercut coming up through the middle, either on a shot or in the clinch. I think he's going to put Khabib down, and I think he's going to hurt him, man. I think it's going to end in the first round, if not the second round. But I will concede, if this does go long, I think the longer this fight goes, the more Khabib gets a read on his takedowns, the worse it's going to be for Gaethje. So, if it does go into the third, fourth, fifth round, Gaethje might get taken down and mauled. But I'm kind of confident, man. I'm kind of feeling Gaethje, man. Again, I have no problem being wrong. I'm not afraid to be wrong. But yeah, dude, I'm feeling Gaethje here. I'm pretty damn confident. And this was prior even to the Tony Ferguson fight. I think Gaethje has just been an interesting matchup for Khabib, just because Gaethje's one of those guys too. Like, he can look dead tired, right, where he's breathing out of his mouth, and the mental state of him, he just doesn't give up. He can still throw with a lot of power. He carries his power into the fifth round, into the later rounds, and he just has the mental fortitude not to stop, whether he's down big, up big, or somewhere in between. Yeah, man, I'm going Gaethje by stoppage. I'm feeling it.
I could see it happening. I mean, it's not. Khabib does start slow, and even when he doesn't start slow, he is an attritive fighter. He needs that snowball effect. So even if Khabib gets you down right away, because the snowball is just starting to roll down the hill, like, guys have a better chance at hurting him then, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I could see him, maybe he gets Gaethje down right away, like in the first couple minutes, like he did against McGregor. But I could see Gaethje like getting up from that, and then tagging him before that snowball has really started to roll down the hill,
Right.
before Khabib has like banked a ton of time on top beating him up. I said I think Khabib can take Gaethje down. I think at least initially he's gonna have a really hard time holding Gaethje down. We've
That's what
seen
I'm saying.
Gaethje fucking, like I said, I don't think he's been like, guys have really tried to take him down a ton in the UFC, but the few times that he's like been on the mat, he's just goes like a madman to get back to his feet.
Yeah,
So
he's very, I don't mean to interrupt you, man, but he's
no,
like very explosive. Like, I'm trying to think, like, in the transition. So when
yes.
he gets taken down, he's very explosive with his movements to try to create space and distance to get back to his feet.
And now I'm starting to sell myself on a Gaethje pick too. I'm sticking with
See?
McGregor, or I'm sticking with Khabib here, but Justin Gaethje has been training with maybe the second best MMA wrestler in the world, in Kamaru Usman right now.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, Usman's a welterweight. Like, you got to think Gaethje is ready for, not that Poirier or McGregor didn't wrestle with some really good guys leading up to their fights, but Gaethje is like literally with one of the only other better, like, best MMA wrestlers in the world right now with Usman.
You can't let Khabib dictate the pace in the fight, right? And I think that's where, because you like you said, you saw McGregor have a little bit of success. You saw Poirier have a little bit of success, right? But once Khabib got the ball rolling, and even prior to that, they were just on the back foot the whole time, where Khabib was moving forward. Khabib was for the most part leading the striking exchanges, right? Like, when Khabib leads the striking exchanges, he's throwing heavy over the top, but that's just to get the hands up to mass a takedown, right? Whereas I think Gaethje is not going to be afraid to start walking Khabib down. And what if he puts Khabib on the back foot? He's got a great jab. I don't know how much he's going to leg kick because of the fear of the takedowns, but he has a great jab. He's got great punches to the body. And like you said, man, if Khabib, this is how I see it, man. If Khabib goes for his takedown, he doesn't get it, they end up in a dude, if Gaethje lands one of those hellacious uppercuts on the inside when they're going to break or they're wrestling around, dude, if he hurts Khabib, he's a killer, man. He is a killer.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for this, dude. I
I'm
am
ex-
pumped.
I'm excited too. I was really excited for Khabib Poirier, and I know hindsight's 2020, but this feels like like I said, the biggest threat to Khabib so far in his title run, and even like in the lead up to the title run.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are selling Gaethje a bit short too. Everything is like Khabib Connor, Khabib GSP, Khabib, this guy, Khabib, that, it's like, yeah, Khabib's great, but he's got a very tough fight on his hands, man.
For sure.
And let me ask you this: do you think that there will be any lasting effects, with Khabib's father's passing, or do you think that's going to be like a motivation? Because I think that's a big part of this, right? I really do, and I don't know if it's going to affect him, one way or the other. If it's going to affect him positively or negatively. I tend to think it's going to affect him positively, but
I get the sense that like emotionally he's going to be like more motivated because of it. But at the same time, like his father was an actual coach to him. So like you take apart the fact that it's his father, and I do think like Khabib strikes me as the type of guy who deals with pain in a way that like fuels his work ethic. So I don't know him personally, obviously, but I would imagine he's hit the gym even harder. But at the same time, like he had a main coach in his camp removed from his life. So like that's got to play some factor. But yeah, I mean, I really think he strikes me as the type of guy who like takes pain and turns it into gold. Like he's going to work harder for it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, but it's interesting. Looking at mybookie.ag, that's the website I usually use to bet. Right now, they got Khabib at a minus 350 favorite with the comeback on Gaethje plus 275. They don't have props up yet, but dude, that Gaethje first round stoppage is going to be like plus.
Let me see.
I would say in like the plus 500 range.
I'll see if any of the other books have it. But I will say, even though I'm picking Khabib, I think that line is too. Like I would bet Gaethje
that's a juicy line, man.
At plus 285. Like if I was to like line the fight on how I think it's most likely to happen, I would say Khabib maybe like minus 150 or minus 170, something like that. Gaethje wins in round 1 this is just on 5 Dimes. I just had it in front of me. Let's see. Gaethje wins in round 1 is plus 1175. So you could make some bank.
You throw $10 on that and you're making what, $175? Some good odds.
That's not bad. I mean, Khabib does start relatively like hittable. I don't want to say he starts slow, but he starts hittable for sure.
I mean, the thing is, like, I can't see Gaethje winning a 5-round decision, right? Like, I just don't think he's going to be able to keep Khabib off of him for that amount of time. So, like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen early. So, if you want to throw a little bit of money on it, I think, Gaethje's going to have a good comeback, man.
I'm into it.
This is a big one. Dude, this fight feels so big. And, Khabib, he got the Conor rub, but he is one of the UFC's biggest stars. And, oh, by the way, we should mention this as well. This card is happening I believe the main card starts like 2:30 Eastern.
Yes.
Which is
it's like an afternoon
awesome.
card.
Yeah, it's great. It is so nice. So, yeah, I mean, main event's probably going to walk out at like 2:30. I mean, 4:30, 5 o'clock. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm all about it. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, it starts at 2 Eastern, the undercard. So yeah, like 5.
Wait
5:30.
Second.
If Tapology is to be believed.
Wait, did they announce Khamzat versus Neil Magny for this card? I'm on Wikipedia right now and it's got Khamzat Chimaev versus Neil Magny.
That is not on Tapology, but let me
That's not a thing.
See here. I don't think any of that has been official. I mean, that seems like the most likely. No, I don't. I think that's Wikipedia. Just
that's
Wikipedia.
I was like, wait a second, that doesn't look right. I mean, that's definitely the fight to make, but
that seems like not to get too off topic, but I know Chimaev was like calling out everybody and nobody wanted to fight him, and then Neil Magny comes out and is like, "I'll fight you," and then it's just crickets from Chimaev. It's like, here's your fucking chance, dude. Go fight Neil Magny.
Yeah, I mean, Neil Magny's ranked. That's the dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, I don't want to get too off topic, but I think Wikipedia's fucking around with us. Dude, co-main event, another big one. Robert Whittaker taking on Jared Cannonier. Dude, I can't really get a read on this fight. This is a tough one because Robert Whittaker has looked so good for so long, right? He had the stumble against Izzy. No shame in that. Whereas Jared Cannonier is now in his 3rd weight class. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. Last performance was super, super impressive. But the 2 before that, he's got the weird leg kick stoppage over Anderson Silva. And then prior to that, in 2018, he beat David Branch, who is no longer in the UFC. So I don't know where to get a read on this fight. I do know that Cannonier has brought his power from heavyweight down. He's a very good striker, but I mean, Whittaker is so damn technical and he's so damn good. I don't know if you have a better read on this one than me.
I'm a Whittaker mark, and I'm going to continue with that. I think Whittaker is just too good. His championship experience is obviously like way more than Cannonier's. He actually has championship experience. Cannonier's 36 years old. I don't entirely trust his cardio late into the fight. He does obviously pack a huge punch. He's a big power puncher, but I also think Whittaker is going to have like an insane hand speed advantage.
Yeah.
And also like Whittaker also is a huge power puncher. Like, let's not forget that. And I think he answered a lot of questions going the 5 rounds with Darren Till. So I like Whittaker here, maybe even getting the stoppage, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a pretty dominant 15 minutes from Whittaker here, just piecing up Jared Cannonier.
I mean, the only thing that gives me pause is the fact that Whittaker does get hurt, at times when he does get hit. Cannonier is a big puncher, but I'm feeling the same as you, man. I think Whittaker is going to have a big hand speed advantage, like you said. He's a very good counter puncher. He's very explosive. I think it does get a little bit dicey for him, but I think, overall, I think he takes the win and puts himself back into position for that, a rematch with Israel Adesanya.
I mean, like I said, I'm a Robert Whittaker mark for sure, but if he like starches Jared Cannonier here, I would be very excited about a rematch.
I would
not
too.
Gonna lie.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Like
too.
you could sell me on the fact that Robert Whittaker could be in a competitive fight with Izzy Adesanya.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, see, Wikipedia has Hamzat versus Neil Magny under that fight. I don't think that's happening. I was looking at MMA fighting. I don't see it anywhere.
Yeah, no, that's Wikipedia fucking with you. I think the next fight down is Volkov Harris.
Volkov Harris, yeah. Yeah, I don't see it anywhere. So we're gonna go Volkov Harris. Fun heavyweight fight. Dude, I think it's another tough one for Walt Harris, man. Volkov is just a very, very technical striker. He's long. He knows how to use his length. Should be a fun one, though.
Yeah, somebody's getting knocked out.
Somebody's getting knocked out. I would agree. Dude, I hope we get this one finally, man. But Magomed Ankalaev, Jan Kutilaba, they had the crazy first fight where Kutilaba was, rope-a-doping him and the ref stopped it. But, they've tried to do it a couple times after. I think they both got the Rona. It was pulled a couple times. I hope this happens, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't at this point. Like I feel like every fight card that I've looked up recently like has this fight booked on it, and then it never happens.
Yeah. Really quickly going through the rest. Stefan Struve, Taito Ivasa, should be decent. The aforementioned Lauren Murphy, she was supposed to be taking on Cynthia Calvillo. Calvillo pulled out. Now she's taking on newcomer Lila Shakirova, who I believe is like 8 or 9-1. I don't know too much about her, but kind of a risky fight for Lauren Murphy with Jessica Andrade just getting a big win. Cynthia Calvillo was a big fight. Now she's taking on a newcomer. And Lauren Murphy's kind of one of those fighters where she's not a big draw. So if the opportunity does pass, she might not get back to it, man. It's kind of shitty to say, but this is a risky fight for her.
Yeah. I mean, I get the sense she's got to pay some bills and shit. Like she's not going to not take this fight. But yeah, I mean, she was booked against Calvillo, like a super, super relevant fight at flyweight. And now she's fighting Lilia Shakirova, who, yeah, like you said, risky fight.
Yeah. Then 2 on the early prelims I'm looking forward to. Nathaniel Wood, Casey Kenny was just signed. Dude, that's a banger of a fight. Outside of like the top 2 fights, that might honestly be my favorite fight on the card. That fight is awesome. And then Liana Jojua, Miranda Maverick is going to be a fun fight as well. Expect some fire grappling exchanges in that one.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited about Kenny Nathaniel Wood. I mean, I guess Nathaniel Wood he lost his last fight, if I have that correct.
No, I believe he won, but I think he might have lost his debut.
He lost to John Dodson.
Yeah.
In his 4th UFC fight. That's what I'm thinking of. But I I still think Nathaniel Wood is like the real. I think he could be fighting for a title eventually. And he's going to have to get through guys like Casey Kenny, who also has that potential. This is a absolute great fight at bantamweight. And yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Miranda Maverick fight, former Phoenix series, like one night tournament winner, and a super good grappler overall. And Liana Jojua with that, she had a really good UFC debut as well. So I'm excited about that. I'm glad that they are. I guess it wasn't her, Jojua didn't win her UFC debut, but her last fight against Diana Belbita. I'm excited about this card, man. Top to bottom, there's, not like I'm not gonna. Maybe I'll run to the gas station for snacks when Sam Alvey fights, but for the most part, top to bottom, this is a good card.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of fun fights on it. And then it's just headlined by two absolute banger, meaningful fights. Yeah, I want that main event, man. It's so awesome. I can't wait. I honestly can't wait, man. The UFC, dude, that's like 3 weekends in a row where the UFC has put on like top flight main events, from Sanhagen to Moraes to Ortega Zombie, and now Gaethje Khabib. They're firing off some bangers.
Well, dude, don't get too excited, because next week we got to talk about how sad we're going to be when Anderson Silva loses to Uriah Hall.
Yeah, that's going to be rough. But we do get Douglas Lima versus Gegard Mousasi first.
Okay, yeah, I'm down with that. That's good.
That goes from high to low.
For sure.
I don't know. I don't think we missed anything, man.
I think that's it.
I think this week was pretty straightforward. I don't got anything else, dude.
That's it. Mostly just the fights this week, dude.
Yeah, man. Enjoy the fights as always, guys. Please, if you can, say it every week, but we gotta give us that follow on Twitter. We are all over the place on iTunes. We're on YouTube. We appreciate you guys subscribing to our YouTube channel. Be on the lookout for some fun stuff there. Enjoy the fights, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain.